Oh boy.
I need more time. I need more mana. Death, take you.
Ooh, got some gloves. Stitch gloves. Alright, so we identified the gloves. It's Doedre's Tenure Stitch Gloves. Energy Shield 17 requires level 16. Int 27. 100% increase spell damage. 17% reduce casting speed. Plus 12 to intelligence. Interesting gloves. Let's see what the AI will come out of this for theory crafting. Definitely something low level, maybe beginner build kind of thing. We will see.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into something a little shocking.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
We're going to be looking at a potential sorcerer build for Path of Exile 2. And the inspiration for this one, a unique pair of gloves called Doedre's Tenure.
Sounds intriguing. I'm all ears.
So from what I've gathered, these gloves are all about maximizing spell damage, especially with shock effects. Perfect for players who, well, like to see things explode.
Definitely my kind of build. Big booms, lots of lightning. What's not to love?
Exactly. But there's a twist, a trade-off, that makes this build particularly interesting. And to break it all down, we have an expert on all things shocking.
Well, I wouldn't say expert, but I've definitely zapped my fair share of enemies in PoE. So, lay it on me. What makes these gloves so special?
All right, so the source material lays it out. Doedre's Tenure, stitched gloves.
Okay, stitched gloves. Sounds a bit creepy.
Maybe a little, but get this.
Yeah.
They give a whopping 100% increased spell damage.
Oh, hold on. 100%. That's like double your damage.
You got it. Crazy.
Yeah.
But there is a downside.
There is always a downside. Let me guess. They drain your life force with every spell or something.
Not quite that dramatic.
Yeah.
But they do come with a 17% reduced cast speed.
Ah, so you sacrifice speed for raw power. Interesting.
Yeah. And figuring out how to make that trade-off work is what this build is all about. What do you think? How do you balance that kind of power with, well, not being a sitting duck?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? Luckily, the source gives us a pretty clear path. It suggests leaning into that supercharged spell idea, focusing on skills that can really capitalize on those big hits.
Right, so we're not just throwing lightning bolts out there. We're talking about really maximizing the impact of each one.
Exactly. The source specifically highlights a few key skills. First up, lightning bolt.
Classic.
Oh,
Reliable, hits hard.
Exactly. Good for single targets and small groups. Next, we have ball lightning.
Ah, now that's where things get interesting. A little slower, but packs a punch. And those projectiles, they keep on shocking, don't they?
Multiple times, yeah. It's not just about the initial hit, it's about keeping those shocks rolling, and that's where the synergy with the gloves starts to shine. Every shock is basically hitting twice as hard.
I like the sound of that. But what about clearing out larger groups of enemies? Wouldn't that slow cast speed be a problem?
Well, that's where the third skill comes in, arc.
Oh yeah, arc is amazing for crowd control. Chains lightning between enemies, right?
Exactly. So you can hit a whole pack with a single cast. And with the increased spell damage from the gloves, well, let's just say things get pretty chaotic.
I bet. So we've got the firepower, but we still need to address that cast speed issue. Any suggestions on that front?
The source recommends leaning heavily on support gems. Faster casting is a must-have, obviously. Gotta offset that penalty from the gloves. But then things get really interesting with Spell Echo.
Spell Echo. Isn't that the gem that basically lets you cast twice in a row?
You got it. It effectively doubles your damage output. And remember, each cast is already amplified by Doedre's Tenure, so we're talking some serious firepower.
Wow, double damage on top of those already supercharged spells. Now that's what I call shocking.
Right. But there's more. We also want to make sure our lightning hits as hard as possible, regardless of enemy resistances. So, lightning penetration is a good choice. And of course, there's lightning mastery for a straight-up
crazy
damage.
guy who's
Makes
right
sense.
on me.
Gotta cover all our bases. But I'm curious, the source mentioned one more gem, controlled destruction.
Ah, yes. Controlled destruction. That's where things get, well, even more strategic. This gem offers a massive damage boost, but eliminates critical hits entirely, so it's a trade-off, and a pretty significant one.
So it sounds like the source is pushing us towards an all-or-nothing approach. maxing out that raw damage, even if it means giving up some potential bursts.
Exactly. The build is all about consistency and making every single hit count. And this is where the choice of Ascendancy becomes crucial.
Ah, Ascendancy. I was wondering when we'd get to that.
OMG.
The source mentioned Stormweaver.
Yep, Stormweaver is the perfect choice for this build. It has a node called Strike Twice that lets you inflict 2 shocks simultaneously.
Oh, wow. So we're stacking even more shocks on top of the shocks we're already getting from Ball Lightning and
Oh
Arc.
my god.
That's a lot of shock.
It's going to be a symphony of sparks and explosions. And with Doedre's Tenure amplifying each one, well, let's just say things are going to get toasty for our enemies.
Sounds amazing. But before we get too carried away, I gotta ask, how does a beginner even approach a build like this?
That's where the passive skill tree
There was,
and
like,
gear
one more
choices
thing.
come in. We'll want to focus on nodes that boost lightning damage, cast speed, and intelligence. And of course, gear that complements those choices. That's a deep dive for another time.
Right, gotta save something for next time. But even with this brief look, we've uncovered some really fascinating ideas. This build isn't just about equipping some fancy gloves and blasting away. It's about understanding synergy, maximizing potential, and embracing the challenge of turning a weakness into a strength.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that sometimes limitations can lead to the most creative and powerful builds.
Exactly. So for all of you listening, I want you to imagine yourself wielding the power of Doedre's Tenure. You're a master of the storm, unleashing a torrent of supercharged lightning. Every enemy in your path becomes a conduit for your power. But here's a final question to ponder. The source opted for raw damage, choosing controlled destruction over critical hits. How would you approach that decision? What support gems or items could compensate for that loss and push this build even further? Let us know what you think. The possibilities are electrifying.